Welcome to our low mood talk. So just before we start, I'm just going to go through what we'll be talking about today. So there's a few housekeeping things, and then we'll be talking about what low mood is, possible causes, self-care, the importance of sleep, making tasks manageable, recognising qualities and achievements, signposting to support, and then there'll be a Q&A at the end, so you can ask us some questions. Now, these are some important things to go through. So it's just really important that you ensure that everyone's confidentiality and I can't even say that word. So you're all anonymous, and that you keep your cameras and microphones off, which you've all got right now, so that's great. And then we please ask you not to record or take any screenshots. So as I said, I'm recording this, so it will be on the YouTube channel on our website. So if you want to go back and rewatch anything, then you can do that. You might want a pen and a paper to make notes, because our question and answer session will be at the end. So if anything comes up and you feel like you've got a question, you might just want to write that down, and then you can ask us at the end. And then our confidentiality policy is that anything shared with Centre 33 will stay within Centre 33 unless we feel there's a risk or harm to yourself or someone else. So if that's the case, we might need to share the information externally with other people that could help. So if anyone did share something in the chat that we were concerned about, we might just get in touch with you. Well, we will get in touch with you individually to follow this up, and then we'll explain if we need to contact someone else for support. So that's just what we always do. And then before I start talking about things, I just kind of wanted to see what you guys think about the word low mood. So not personal experiences or anything, but using the annotate bar up here, I hope you can access that. So if you hover on the bar, then you can get the annotate, and the pen, the text or the pen will come down. Then you can just write word or just a quick sentence or anything. When you hear the word low mood, what comes to your mind? So yeah, a bit like word association or something like that. So if you want to have a go at that. If you don't want to write anything, that's okay. I'll give it a minute, and if no one wants to contribute, that's fine. I'm not going to make you. So if you do, you can have a go now.
If anyone's finding it difficult to find the annotate part, then you could just drop it in the chat. The chat comes directly through to the host, so there's no need for you to worry about kind of people reading it or seeing where it's come from, even though your names are anonymized anyway. So if you have any questions about, you're welcome to kind of pass those through, and if you want to drop any words into the chat box, then now's a good time to do that, about what you think low mood might mean to you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's a good word. Well, again, there are no good or bad words. They're all individual, whatever you think. Great, thank you. I'll move on. And again, if you think of anything you want to add, yeah, pop it in the chat. That's great. So what is low mood? Low mood means that people struggle in 3 core areas. So your mood, or how you feel, thinking, and then things you do, or that's so how your behavior. So with your mood, you may feel sad, like someone said, or you might feel irritable, or just have like an overall lack of pleasure or interest in doing things, and just feel like, ugh, meh, that feeling. And with thinking, you might find it difficult to concentrate, or you might feel overly critical about yourself, or you might feel hopeless. And with behaviour, when people are experiencing low mood, they tend to find it harder to take part in things, and things that you often used to enjoy and find pleasurable, you don't tend to find that anymore. And there's often like a reduced activity because of the way you're feeling. And I thought it might just be helpful to include a few statistics. So I am going to read those. So the World Health Organization say that worldwide over 256 million people of all ages suffer from depression. A study in 2017 suggested that 2.1% of 5 to 19-year-olds had experienced a major depressive episode. So that's like serious low mood, and that 1 in 50, and these figures are higher for low mood, which hasn't reached the level of a major depressive episode. Also, I think it's worth noting that these figures are pre-COVID, and general consensus that COVID has increased low mood and anxiety in young people. So I think a lot of people can agree with that since COVID, a lot of people have been affected by that, with their mood and anxiety, and those kinds of things. And whilst it is common, the prognosis is that most people will recover from low mood without it getting into a major depressive episode. And 10% of people find their low mood disappears within 3 months on its own. Today, we're going to be thinking about some strategies that can support you feeling more positive again. So, and I was just looking, and for the number of people that experience low mood, and a lot of famous people have talked about their experiences, like Angelina Jolie, Pete Davidson, Michael Phelps, he's a Olympic swimmer, Cara Delevingne, Lady Gaga, Demi Lovato, Prince Harry, and there's loads of people. So it is common and it is treatable. And I've shared those people with you just so you know that you're not alone. And hopefully today you will learn some strategies that may support you to feel better. So what does low mood look and feel like? So it is totally different for each person. But in this slide and the next slide, there are some symptoms that are commonly experienced by people with low mood. And you might recognize some might be new. So we've got feeling alone and isolated, boredom, no interest in things. I think sometimes, especially teenagers, get labeled as being lazy, but this can be a part of low mood. You just don't have interest in things. Sadness, feeling empty and flat, that kind of nothing feeling is really common. Irritability, angry, aggressive feelings. Sometimes this isn't talked about as much with low mood, but feeling angry is part of feeling low, and just not caring. So they're like the emotions. And then physical feelings, having no energy, feeling tired, having an increase or decrease in sexual feelings, headaches. And then there are other things like having stomach aches and like physical feelings in your body, like feeling poorly. They're part of low mood as well. And then thoughts. These can look like worry and rumination. So rumination is going over the same thoughts over and over again. So this can often happen at night time, when you just can't switch off, thinking negatively about the world, thinking negatively about yourself, thinking negatively about other people. And these can be really hard to get out of. And I think thinking negatively about yourself can be particularly tough. And then behaviours, you'll notice quite a few in this one. So doing less generally, stop engaging in hobbies and interests, staying in bed and indoors a lot. Again, I think people might think this is being lazy, but if if you've got no energy and things, staying in bed, sleeping too much or too little, you can't concentrate, social withdrawal and isolation, eating too much or too little, reduced academic performance, so how you're doing at school, and then self-harm. So all of those things on those last 2 pages are part of low mood. So that's a lot to deal with. So if we have a look here, the cycle of low mood. So one of the ways that we think about low mood in guided self-help, which is what I do, and I've just realised that I forgot to introduce myself. So my name is Rachel, and I am a CWP, which is a children's wellbeing practitioner, but I work with young people as well. And this is my colleague Jenny. So yeah. Yeah, I use guided self-help. This has just reminded me. So in guided self-help, you use cognitive behavior therapy, and we call it CBT as well. And it's recognized that how you think about a situation can impact how you feel about it, and also what you do. So in other words, how you behave. And you can see that on this cycle here, so your thoughts and your feelings and your behaviors. So identifying your thoughts, your feelings and your behaviors is a really useful way of building up an understanding of what your low mood looks like and what your triggers are. So in other words, what sets off your low mood. And I'm going to give you an example from our guided self-help book about Camille, a 15-year-old who's experiencing low mood. So Camille is a 15-year-old male who lives with his mother and older brother in South London. For the last few weeks, Camille has been feeling really annoyed with everyone. He also feels tired all the time, is struggling to get to sleep at night, and finds it hard to get out of bed in the morning. He generally feels grumpy and hopeless, as things seem to be getting worse. Camille is arguing with his brother a lot more than usual and has stopped meeting up with friends after school. He is also spending more time in his room on his phone or occasionally gaming. Camille started to get in a lot of trouble at school for turning up late, not completing his homework and missing lessons. His grades are falling. He is struggling to concentrate and he has started getting detentions. Camille used to play football regularly for both his school and the local team. Recently he has lost interest in this and has been going to training and matches less and less. So maybe you recognise parts of yourself and what Camille is experiencing. So we can see in Camille and his thoughts and feelings, so here and here, and his behaviours have become a bit of a vicious cycle. So the pattern is getting difficult to get out of. So his thoughts are his feelings are here, tired, fed up, annoyed, which makes him behave in a certain way. And he's going to his bed, lying down, scrolling through Instagram, not seeing his friends, not doing his homework, which is then still making him feel not great, which is going back to his thoughts. What's the point in trying? I can't do anything right. No one understands what I'm doing. And it just goes back to the feelings. So it just keeps going on. It's like a vicious cycle. So the talk next week is going to focus a bit more on this cycle, so I'm not going to go into it in detail. If we go on to this slide, so the possible causes of low mood. And low mood can be caused by lots of reasons, and it's likely to be lots of different things, more than just one. So it can be, stay on the slide, it can be due to biochemistry, so that can be chemical levels in the brain. It can also be a genetic component. So research has shown that children whose mothers have depression are 3 to 4 times more likely to become depressed themselves. And then of course can also be social factors due to family and social difficulties or how you fit in culturally. So for example, young people who identify as LGBTQ+ are more likely to experience low mood, and young people who are from a Black or minority ethnic background also may experience the impact of racial discrimination on their own mental health. Low mood can be triggered by negative life events, particularly loss or trauma. So for example, 30% of young people with post-traumatic stress disorder, so we also call this PTSD, also experience low mood. Another life event that we all have experienced is COVID. I can't think of many people who haven't been affected by COVID in some way. So the factors from this are isolation, loss, lack of certainty, particularly around schooling, reduced activities. So these are all the things that can impact people and lead to experiencing low mood. So lots of reasons that you might be feeling like you do, and there's not just one reason for this. So that can be why it's hard sometimes to unpack why you're feeling the way you are. So what can you do to help your low mood? Positive effects. So you can do, there are quite a few things you can do to help yourself. Positive effects on your mood. I'm not going to go into too much detail with this because, again, it's going to be talked about next week. But I can confirm that this definitely works. Doing activities when you're feeling low is hard, I know, with the motivation to get yourself going. But if you can find an activity where you've got a sense of achievement, enjoyment, and closeness to others, then it really does have a positive impact on you. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much into it because they're going to talk about it a lot next week. But research has proved that these things definitely help. Then activity diary. So keeping a diary of how you spend your time can help to get an overview of what you spend your time doing and what kind of influence it has on your mood. So sometimes it's hard to think back of things that you did, but if you keep a diary of the things, sometimes you can put a pinpoint on a certain thing that happened or you did or who you were with, and maybe that was like a trigger or something, or you can find the pleasurable things that you did. So for example, if we have a look at this, and I'll just use me for example, we do Monday 7:30 activity. So I got up in the morning. So my enjoyment. Now, believe it or not, I don't hate getting up for work. So I'm going to probably rate enjoyment a 4, because I mean, I don't love getting up, but I don't hate it. So that's a 4. Achievement, actually, I think getting up for work is a massive achievement. So I'm going to put an 8. And then closeness to others. I wasn't with anyone. I didn't do anything. So I'm going to put probably a 0. So as an example, so you're going to pick the activity you did, whatever it was, and then so we're going to rate it out of 10. So 0 being the worst ever, 10 being the best, and you rate it. So let's say 9 to 10. If I had breakfast, yeah, breakfast is all right. I'd say probably a 5. Achievement, yeah, sometimes having breakfast is hard in the morning, so I'll put a 6. Closeness to others, last time I had breakfast it was with someone, so I can probably put a 7 for that. So, and then let's skip these for now. 12 o'clock, let's say I had lunch, but I watched the TV. I like watching the TV, so I'm going to put a 7 for watching the TV. Achievement, probably a 5. And so I did it on my own, so 0. But if I did it with someone else, I could put like a 7. So this is a kind of example of what you could do. And it's going to be looked at next week and talked about more. So it might be a really good idea if you could keep your own activity diary and whatever you put in, rate your enjoyment, your achievement, and your closeness to others, and then you can get a good picture of what's going on over your week, and I think it could be quite helpful. And then self-care. I'm sure you've heard a lot of self-care, but that's because it's really, really important. And self-care isn't just bubble baths and face masks. It's a lot more than that. It's about looking after yourself and putting yourself first, and just putting time aside to make sure that you're okay. And there are lots of things within that. So eating well. So as we said before, sometimes we eat too much, or we don't, or we eat too little. It's about finding that kind of balance in the middle. You know, because sometimes we don't feel like eating, or sometimes we eat a lot of one thing. And yeah, so it's just about trying to find that middle ground, so we can feel, so our bodies can feel good and feel nurtured. And then nurturing yourself. So often when we feel low, we forget to look after ourselves, and sometimes people forget to wash, or they don't want to wash, they can't be bothered, or getting dressed, or just generally not looking after themselves, or not being nice to yourself, not speaking nicely to yourself. So it's about trying to take that time to maybe get dressed, or, you know, spend a little time out of bed if that's the kind of thing you need, or even just, you know, it sounds a little bit cliche, but painting your nails if you want to, or putting on a bit of makeup to make yourself feel better, or, you know, just spending that time to look after yourself and do what you need to do to make yourself feel better. And then exercise. So exercise is really important. It releases the hormones that make you feel good, makes your body feel great. But I think it's really important to find some movement or some exercise that makes you feel good. Not, you know, don't just go for a run because you think you have to, or join the gym. It needs to be something that you enjoy. So, you know, it could be roller skating, or, you know, swimming, or anything you want that's a movement, or walking, going for a walk outside. And it doesn't have to be hours, and it doesn't have to be grueling. It's not a punishment. It's something to make your body feel good. And getting outside into nature. It's lovely to be outside, fresh air, especially if you've been spending a lot of time inside because you don't feel great. If you can get the motivation, which I know is hard, to get outside, smell that fresh air, maybe hear those birds, just even if you go outside for 5 minutes, it can change the way you are thinking. Connecting with others. Sometimes it's the last thing you want when you're not feeling great, is to talk to other people, but it can change the way you're thinking. It can create, it can get you talking about other things and just making that connection. It can be really supportive, especially if you have been isolating yourself. And then being creative, using arts, books, music, anything that you enjoy. It can take you away sometimes from the way you've been feeling, and it gets you using that other part of your brain, which is really good. And it's not like a cure, but it can distract you for a bit, and it can also just get you thinking about other things. And then sleep. So we have another slide on sleep. We do a webinar on sleep, which just looks at sleep. But yeah, I'm sure, again, you've heard lots of things about getting a good night's sleep, because it is really important. When you're feeling low, we often get sleep problems, and it is really common to sleep too much or to sleep too little, and it does have an effect on how you feel. So there are lots of things that you can do to help that. Limiting screen time before bedtime. I'm sure lots of you've heard of this before, and changing to a filter. Most phones come with that built in with them already. And having a good evening routine. So try not to nap during the day, which sometimes really hard, especially when you're exhausted. I think if you don't have a routine, trying to implement it, you're exhausted and you want to nap during the day. But once you get into that routine, needing those naps during the day kind of fizzles out. Try not to drink caffeine, eat caffeine. It's probably, yeah, you've probably heard of that. And not exercising too late as well, because it stimulates your brain. And then try to relax before bed. Music, progressive muscle relaxation. If you've not heard of that, on our website there are some techniques, and there is a bit on progressive muscle relaxation. And then making your room calm and cool, so like opening the windows, and making it a nice space. So I know people tend to play computer games late at night because that's what you want to do. It's fun, but your brain has been so active and so full of adrenaline playing this game, and then you put your Xbox or your PlayStation down and your brain is still like whirring with all this adrenaline, and it's been problem solving on this game, and then you lie down to go to bed and your brain is still full of all of this stuff. So I know it's really hard because people want to play computer games, but it is really important to get a good night's sleep. So try to put those computer games away for like a good hour before bed. And if you're not able to sleep, instead of getting your phone out and like scrolling, maybe try to read a book or listen to music or something, just to try and keep your brain relaxed. And then making tasks manageable. Sometimes we have a big task and it just seems overwhelming and too big. So we can break them down into smaller steps, and it gives us more of a sense of achievement as well. So instead of, you need a shower, but that's sometimes just too big. So you can wash your face before you get dressed. And that's great. You've done something, you've achieved something, and you've washed. So that's great. So you need to do the washing up. Again, maybe it's just too big. You can just wash your cup and your plate up for lunch. You've done what you've needed to do and you've achieved that. You can come back to the other things later. You can wash up a few bits at a time. Leaving the house. Here we've got getting out of bed and sitting by the window. Again, you've made a step towards that big thing. You don't have to do it right now. If you're feeling that low, it's just too big sometimes, so you can break it down. Completing homework, and we've got here reading the task and making a few notes. It's fine if you break things down. So at that point, maybe you read the task and make a few notes. Maybe the next time you have a go at the first question or something like that, and you keep building up your steps until you're ready. But that's okay, you can do those things. Something that's really important is recognizing your own strengths and qualities, because sometimes it's hard to realize you've got them when you're feeling low, because you're flooded with lots of negative thoughts and feelings, but you do have them. They are there. And it's important to remind yourself that you have them. So you can write down positive thoughts and keep like a diary of them, or you can keep little slips of paper and write them down. But I think it's a really good idea to keep a record of them. So we've got on here, so things you're good at, things you know a lot about, things you did, times you did something hard even when it was hard, times you've helped people, things that people have thanked you for, things you're proud of, compliments you've received, things you like about yourself. And if it's too hard for you to think of, you can get other people to like recommend them for you. So it's really good if you can try and do it yourself first. But if you can't, you can always ask someone else. And another thing, it's important not to include any buts or excepts when making the lists. There may be things you aren't good at or haven't done as well, but no one's perfect. Like, there's literally no such thing as perfect. So you could keep these in a little book, or you could keep them in a little jar and write them on a piece of paper. So you could have little pieces of paper, you just write down the good thing, pop them in the jar, and then, you know, when you're not feeling great, you can get them out of the jar and you can read them. All kinds of positive things about yourself. So that's really important. And yeah, you can always reach out to us at Centre 33 for support. It doesn't have to be ongoing. You can just talk to us for a chat. We do drop-ins, and you can talk to us about mental health, housing, employment, money, sexual health, young carers, and we can also signpost you to other places as well. And all this information is on our website, so you can have a look at it there. And then there are lots of other charities as well out there, or other support. So there's Kooth, and they're an online mental health support. So you can it's like an app on your phone that you can use. You can talk to people on there, and that's really helpful. The Kite Trust provides support for young people around gender and sexuality. They're a really supportive, good charity. Mind, they're a mental health charity with information. Anxiety UK, Anxiety. The Mix provides online information and support for young people around a number of different things: relationships, mental health, housing. Papyrus, that is for suicide prevention. Young Minds, loads and loads of really good information on there. NHS here, and Keep Your Head, just loads and loads of really good information on there, so you can check those out. And these are urgent support. I think first response, really helpful. So you call 111 and select option 2, and they are 24/7. So if you're like in a crisis, they're really good. Obviously 999, always there. And then there's Samaritans, Childline, Young Minds, Crisis Messenger. But again, these are on our website, and this will be recorded. So yeah, you can have a look back at those. And then yeah, so if you've got any questions about anything, you can pop them in the chat. Just me and Jenny will see them, so you don't have to worry about that, and we will do our best to answer those. If you don't have any questions and you don't want to stick around, that's okay. You can leave, that is fine. So yeah, if you do want to go, thank you very much for listening. Yeah, it was really appreciated. I'll just move on to this slide. So if you do want to take part in next week's webinar, it's next Monday the 30th of May at 5:30. There is a QR code there, but again, all the information will be on the website, and however you got the information for this webinar, hopefully you'll have the information for the next one as well. So yeah, thank you very much. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and I will stop recording.
Thanks, Rachel.